Hare Krishna everyone, welcome back to reading the teachings of Lord Caitanya by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're continuing to read chapter 17, Lord Caitanya, the original personality of Godhead. And this is Shravanam Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Sulalita Devidasi. Let's dive in. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that one should give up everything and be done with this world of material attachment. A pure devotee of Lord Kṛṣṇa and one who follows the philosophy of Lord Caitanya are one and the same. Chaitanya's philosophy is that one should give up everything and worship God, Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, spoke the same words, indicating himself as the Supreme Lord. But the Mayavadi philosophers misunderstood him. Therefore, Lord Caitanya, to clarify the situation, reiterated Lord Kṛṣṇa's message. One should not declare himself to be as good as Kṛṣṇa, but should worship Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Lord. We make a great mistake if we think Lord Caitanya is a conditioned soul. He is to be understood as the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, Sri Kṛṣṇa himself. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is therefore said of Lord Caitanya, Kṛṣṇa is now present in his 5 diverse manifestations. Unless one is situated in uncontaminated goodness, it is very difficult to understand Lord Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Thus, in order to understand Lord Caitanya, one has to follow the direct disciples of Lord Caitanya, the 6 Goswamis, and especially the path chalked out by Srila Jiva Goswami. Srila Jiva Goswami. The most astonishing fact is that Lord Caitanya, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa, never displayed himself as Kṛṣṇa. Rather, whenever intelligent devotees detected that he was Lord Kṛṣṇa and addressed him as Lord Kṛṣṇa, he denied it. Indeed, he sometimes placed his hands over his ears, protesting that a human being should not be addressed as the Supreme Lord. He was protesting and protecting. Indirectly, he was teaching the Mayavadi philosophers that one should never falsely pose himself as the Supreme Lord and thereby misguide his followers. Nor should the followers be foolish enough to accept anyone and everyone as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should test by consulting scriptures and by seeing the activities of the person in question. One should not, however, mistake Lord Caitanya and his 5 diverse manifestations for ordinary human beings. Lord Caitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa himself. The beauty of Lord Caitanya is that, although he is the Supreme Lord, he came as a great devotee to teach all conditioned souls how devotional service should be rendered. Conditioned souls who are interested in devotional service should follow in the exemplary footsteps of Lord Caitanya to learn how Kṛṣṇa can be attained by devotional service. Thus, the Supreme Lord Himself teaches the conditioned soul how he should be approached by devotional service. By analytically studying the 5 diverse manifestations of the Supreme Lord, we can come to know that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Absolute Truth, and that Lord Nityananda is His immediate expansion. We can also come to understand that Advaita Prabhu is also in the category of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but is subordinate to Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and His immediate and subordinate expansion are worshipable by the other two, namely the representation of the internal potency and the representation of the marginal potency. The representation of the internal potency, Gadadhar, represents the confidential devotee, and the representation of the marginal potency, Shrivas, represents the pure devotee. Both of these are worshippers of the other 3. But all 4 of the Lord's expansions, whether in the worshipable category, Nityananda and Advaita, or the worshipper category, Gadadhar and Shrivas, are engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is a specific difference between the pure devotee and the confidential devotee. The different potencies of the Lord are engaged in serving the Supreme Lord in different transcendental relationships. They are situated in conjugal love, in parental affection, in friendship, or in servitude. By judging impartially, one can find that the internal potencies of the Supreme Lord, who are engaged in conjugal love with the Lord, are the best of all devotees. Thus, both internal devotees and confidential devotees are attracted by the conjugal love of the Supreme Absolute Truth. These are the most confidential devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Other pure devotees who are more or less attached to Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu are attracted by other transcendental relationships, such as parental affection, friendship, and servitorship. When such devotees are very much attached to the activities of Lord Chaitanya, they at once become confidential devotees in conjugal love with the Supreme Lord. There is a very nice song sung by Sri Narottama Dasa Thakur, a great devotee and acharya in the disciplic succession from Lord Chaitanya. Narottam Das sings, quote, "When will there be transcendental eruptions all over my body, simply by me hearing the name of Gauranga? When will tears incessantly flow from my eyes simply by my uttering the names of the Lord? When will Lord Nityananda have mercy upon me and make all my desires for material enjoyment insignificant? When shall I be purified by giving up all contaminations of material enjoyment? And when shall I be able to see the transcendental abode Vrindavan? When shall I be eager to accept the 6 Goswamis as my prime guides? And when will I be able to understand the conjugal love of Kṛṣṇa? Unquote. No one should be eager to understand the conjugal love of Kṛṣṇa without undergoing disciplinary training under the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. The Sankirtana movement, inaugurated by Lord Caitanya, is a transcendental pastime of the Lord. Quote, "By it I live simultaneously to preach and popularize this movement in the material world." Unquote. In that Sankirtana movement of Lord Caitanya, Nityananda and Advaita are his expansions, and Gadadhar and Shrivas are his internal and marginal potencies, respectively. The living entities are also called marginal potency because they have either of 2 attitudes, namely the tendency to surrender unto Kṛṣṇa and the tendency to become independent of him and try for material enjoyment. Due to this propensity for material enjoyment, the living entity becomes contaminated by the material world. When a living entity is dominated by a desire for material enjoyment and becomes entangled in material life, he is subjected to the 3-fold miseries of material existence. There is a nice example showing how Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtana movement can save one from the miseries of material existence. The desire for material enjoyment is just like a seed sown in the earth. If a seed is inundated by too much water, there is no possibility of its fructifying. Similarly, if a conditioned soul is captivated by material enjoyment, because the seed of such enjoyment is within his heart, he can be overwhelmed and overpowered by a flood of transcendental activities performed in love of God. In this way, his seed of material enjoyment cannot fructify into a conditioned life of material existence. The conditioned living entities in the present age of Kali are being overpowered by the flood of love of God inundated by Lord Caitanya and his associates. Haribol! I love this analogy. It's so beautiful, so poetic and picturesque, right? It's like so, the flood. Haribol. In this connection, there's a verse written by His Holiness Prabodhananda Saraswati in his book Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This verse states that materialistic persons are very enthusiastic to maintain their family members, wife and children, and that there are also many mystic speculators who are engaged in speculating about liberation from the miseries of material life, and who therefore undergo various austerities and penances. But those who have discovered the greatest transcendental flavor in the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu no longer have a taste for such activities. Param drishtva nivartate. They no longer have taste for such activities. They have higher taste. Jai. We're going to stop here for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. The link to this book is in the description. Please read these books along with us and share them with all of your friends. Recommend them to everyone you know. Let everyone be overpowered by the flood of love of God, inundated by Lord Caitanya and his associates. Jai. So see you next time. Hare Krishna Dandavat.